Hi, my name is Jason Walters, and as you can clearly see, I am once more not in the Indie Press Revolution game room. Today I would like to talk about yet another book by Cardok Games. This one is called Rascals, and it's written by Giles Pritchard with a lot of really fun artwork by Juan Ochoa. Last time I was not in the Indie Press Revolution game room. I did a review of one of Cardok Games' other games, which is called Corsairs. We'll have a link below. Highly recommended. This is a completely different game. Everything about it's different. But I want to talk about it for a second because I'm becoming something of a big fan of Cardok Games. As I mentioned in the last review I did of their other book, it's just, I'm looking at it right now, and it's just amazing what current game designers can do with 30 or 40 pages, as opposed to when I was a lad and people were doing kind of far less impressive things with hundreds of pages. So Rascals is a heist game. It's a science fiction heist game set in a future universe called the Network. Now, one of the great things about the presentation of the setting in this game is that you get it last. It's mentioned in a few sentences, and at the very end of the book, you get 2 pages explaining the setting, and it's wholly adequate if you understand the genre. And the genre is the science fiction heist. In the setting of the Network, you are special ops team, ne'er-do-wells, criminals, agents. It's really mercenaries. It's really unclear, but you have been out of it for a while. You are retired, done, not involved. And it takes place 4 years after an event called the Accords of Light and B, which are a peace treaty. The Network had fallen into civil war and is kind of a shadow of itself, and has become far less civilized and far more kind of Wild Westy than it was before the war. But you did your thing during the war, whatever it was, as a group, and you are retired. You're done with it. But now things from your past have come back and dragged you back in to action one last time. So it's a one last caper game, but it's not a one last caper game because you're like, well, one more last caper and we'll be rich. This is a different kind of thing. So first of all, Rascals has an ingenious little game system, all based around cards and chips. There's no dice or anything involved. Your game master in this game is called the House, and the House sets up adventures called The Adventure. This is a one-off, called The Problem. And it does this by drawing cards and determining the 4 segments of the problem based on the suits of the cards. That would be the trigger, the peril, behind the mask, and the stakes. This is all done very quickly. The House constructs the adventure by a bunch of preset rules involving drawing cards, and you have each suit you draw gives you a different potential angle on setting up the problem. The problem is the adventure, because this is a one-shot. And as part of the problem, you have 4 sections. You have the trigger, the peril, behind the mask, and the stakes. And you determine all of this as the House by drawing cards and looking at the suit of the card. Now, this allows you to pretty quickly make up an adventure. It's all spec'd out in the game. You make up the adventure very quickly. As far as your characters go, you have 4 potential types of character archetypes you can play. You have the brains, the face, the muscle, and the stick. So you select one of these. Each one of these has a different level of hustle. Now, hustle is an interesting concept in this game because it's a mixture between hit points and the stakes that you gamble. When you do one of your moves in the game, which boil down to 3 different types of moves, that's action, reaction, and challenge, with challenge and reaction being instituted by the House, that's the game master, and action being instituted by the players. You have a set of 5 cards in your hand, and the gameplay is determined by betting a certain amount of your hustle. You have a 5-card hand, and then the house and the player gamble a certain amount and determine the outcome by playing cards. It's a pretty simple system, but it's dynamic enough to be really interesting. Actually, everything about the way this game is done with its card and chip systems is really very interesting. This is also how weapons are created as objects in the game, and how ships are created as objects in the game. They all have a certain amount of points that can be spent in various ways. I especially find the ship mechanics really interesting in the game, where you have a certain amount of points, and then you have sort of movement, shields, and weapons, and you dedicate your point pool to each one in sort of a quadrant, and then they can all sort of take damage depending on what suits of cards are drawn. Intership combat, same thing for vehicles. It's really a fascinating system that Giles Pritchard has created. Very simple but very dynamic. I prefer it vastly over a lot more complicated things that I've seen. So again, what can be done in just 30 or 40 pages, 6 by 9, pages, as opposed to 200 or 300 pages, 8.5 by 11 pages, is quite remarkable. And once again, becoming something of a fan of Cardok Press's work. I hope they keep making exactly these sorts of things, each one with its own unique game system, each one only 30 or 40 pages long, each one a self-contained playable game. I really cannot express enough like what you're getting, how much entertainment you're getting for picking up one of these little books. So thank you, gamers, for your time, since I am obviously not in the Indie Press Revolution game room and obviously not alone. Please follow us on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our newsletter via Constant Contact. Check out Cardok Games' work, Rascals and Corsairs. And remember, gamers, when they bring you back for just one more time, they never let you go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.